Mars in Gemini, square Saturn in Pisces. The beginning of the mutable T-square that is forming, that will be a part of the full moon in Aquarius story that is quickly approaching Monday, August 19th. Hello, my name is Eliane Nicole. I'm your astrologer and tarot reader, and in this video I am going to talk about the build-up to the full moon and how this Mars square Saturn piece is one of the significant building blocks in understanding what's about to happen next week. And the Mars Saturn square formed exact the night of August 15th in Los Angeles, where I am, around 10:37 p.m. Thursday, August 15th. So on the East Coast in New York and such, it was the wee hours of the morning, August 16th. And even though that's the exact date of the perfection, this is energy that has been building for the past week, and we will continue to see the effects of through the next week, and even further in some cases, because it's also kind of setting off the Jupiter square Saturn aspect, which will perfect the night of the full moon and extend over a few months because of retrogrades and such. We will see that aspect hit exactly again Christmas Day, and then again in June of 2025. And so these are aspects that kind of have far-reaching consequences over the next few months in a way. Squares are tough aspects. They are 90-degree angles, so they are hard angles, and squares represent challenges or conflicts that require an action of some kind, provoke action of some kind. And so any square is difficult because of the nature of the hard angle. But in this case, with Mars square Saturn, we're dealing with the two malefics. So that's especially difficult. Malefic is terminology that comes from ancients to describe Saturn and Mars, because they tend to be the planets that address the more difficult parts of life on planet Earth. Mars primarily has to do with our drive and our desire and how we go for those desires. But on the flip side, Mars also has to do with things like anger and frustration. Mars rules things like, Mars is the god of war most famously. So, he rules the police, he rules the military, he rules guns and knives and blood. Mars rules cars. Saturn, on the other hand, is the great authoritarian. He's the great disciplinarian. Saturn is the arbiter of karma. Saturn deals with restrictions and limitations, boundaries, structures, rules, regulations, all of those kinds of things. So Mars in Gemini, forming a square with Saturn in Pisces, is creating challenging circumstances regarding those topics, but also issues of like information, words, and ideas versus kind of Piscean themes, which can be anything from images, art, health, spirituality, emotion. So there's potentially a crisis of faith that is coming up here, a crisis of around words or informations, belief systems, a challenge or a conflict. Information about health, information about religion or spirituality, information that we're getting regarding images, water. It can be an internal conflict between the heart and the mind, or between, reason and logic, the intellect versus faith, the details versus the big picture. In general, Mars wants to go really fast and Saturn wants to put on the brakes. Mars is the gas pedal, Saturn is the brakes. And so we're coming off the Mars-Jupiter conjunction, which was about, in Gemini, which was about big ideas and grand proclamations and, confidence and exuberance and big new starts and launches and, excitement and let's move forward and let's expand and let's do it quickly. And Saturn is coming and saying, wait, here are the rules, here are the cautions, here are your boundaries, here are your limitations in terms of time or money or resources or energy. Saturn wants to bring the realism into the situation, whereas Jupiter is the optimism and Mars is the desire and the passion and the speed. Now there's a reality check to this big new start we want to make, or this big expansion we want to make, or these great ideas that we're having at this time. And so therein lies the conflict, and the conflict is here now. It doesn't mean that these obstructions or these walls that we're encountering will be here forever, but it does create a frustrating situation for the time being that we may be dealing with for a while. It means that these ideas, these new starts, these launches, these expansions are going to require, I look at it as difficult and complex situations that are going to require creative solutions. Although the 90-degree angle is a hard aspect, the whole 3D material world is built on 90-degree angles. We need them to build. We need them to hold up reality as we know it. And so it's necessary. And, Mars and Saturn are also necessary. In the body, Mars is the muscles, Saturn is the bones, and the skin and the teeth. Where would we be without that? Saturn is the container. And Mars is the drive and the passion. Oh, speaking of drive, it can even literally be cars and car issues. Accidents involving speed and hitting walls. A T-square is forming, so it can be accidents involving like T-squares. Saturn wants us to be cautious. Saturn wants us to not go too fast. Saturn wants us to look before we leap. And Mars is just full speed ahead after its destination, after its target. The good news is that this is a mutable T-square. Gemini and Pisces are mutable signs. So I feel like squares and mutable signs are very changeable, they're very flexible. And so mutable signs know how to shape shift. They know how to say, okay, this isn't working, let's try this. So, and so to that end, I think that there is some room here. Adaptability and flexibility will get us through on this side of things. The full moon also features a fixed square, which is another story that I'll save for the full moon video. But yeah, Mars is going to be squaring Saturn first, and then Jupiter will come into the square with Saturn the same day as the full moon on August 19th. As it opposes Venus, which is creating the T-square. So a mutable T-square means everything is changing. Everything is in flux. The ground underneath our feet is very uncertain. And we have to be willing to go with the flow and not resist, because there's nothing we can really do about it. Our best strategy will be adaptability and creative solutions to complex, ever-changing situations. And yeah, I mean, I just wanted to stop in and talk about this branch of the T-square that's forming, really. And if you haven't already, watched the Mars conjunct Jupiter and Gemini video, because that is really the start of the full moon story that's building. And this full moon on Monday, it's such a humdinger. It's such a wowzers moment that I've been wanting to break it down into sections on the way there, to help prepare people for this very surprising shakeup that is coming for the world on Monday. And it'll affect us all in our personal lives in varying ways, some more than others, depending on your own personal astrology. That's why it's good to have an understanding of your chart. The best way to do that is to have a reading one-on-one with an astrologer. I would love to read for you. My books are open for August, so definitely contact me for a reading. I read on Zoom, so I can read for people anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. Please hit the notification button so you're notified every time I post a new video. Please like, please comment, help me out in the algorithm, guys. If you're watching this on Instagram, please make sure that you are following astrology.tarot.Eliane Nicole. And like, comment, share in your story, share with your friends. Help me in the algorithm. And definitely contact me for a reading. If you're watching on YouTube, my email is down in the notes below. If you're watching on Instagram, I will likely put my email in the caption, but if not, you can go to my profile bio, click on the contact button, email me to get on the calendar. I would love to read for you. And yes, adaptability, flexibility, those are going to be key strengths that will win the day in terms of the mutable T-square aspect of the full moon. But there's more, so stay tuned as I am on full moon and Aquarius watch. Some astrologers are calling this the most important full moon of the year. Some are calling it the most important full moon of the decade. I don't know that I'm going to give it either of those labels. The last full moon we had, where Joe Biden stepped down from the Democratic ticket for the next election, was a big completion. So that was big in its own way. But this one is a big shakeup. This one is a big surprise. This one is a big plot twist in world events and personally. So stay with me. Go back and watch the new moon of Leo video. We're still in that cycle. I gave a lot of valuable astrological information there. Watch my Mercury retrograde videos. Watch the Mars Jupiter conjunction video. All of it is part of the story leading up to this culminating point of the full moon on August 19th, which I'm going to give its own video, but I wanted to take apart some of the components on the way there because it is such a nuanced, complex, multi-layered situation that is coming to a culminating point in just a few days on August 19th. Thank you for joining me. Talk to you soon.